Dear comrades, we are very proud to be here at this conference today. And we are the People's Front of Turkey, and it's the first time that we participate at this conference. We are Marxist-Leninists, and we fight against imperialism and fascism, especially against the US imperialism. And in this struggle we brought you the greetings of our comrades in Turkey. We brought you the greetings of our revolutionary youth, of our lawyers, of our engineers, of our prisoners, of our revolutionary prisoners who resist against the fascist attacks in Turkey. We are an organization who wants to make the revolution in Turkey, and we fight for a socialist system. And that's the reason why this conference and Stalin is very important for us. We are also organized in Europe, so we know anti-Stalinism very well, and we think that we have to destroy the thought of anti-Stalinism, because the imperialists are feared of Stalin, but it's not only the personal fear, it's the fear of socialism, because Stalin means revolution, Stalin means socialism, and Stalin means victory. So they want to criminalize him with lies, and because of that we chose this topic, and we want to share our thoughts about the lies the imperialists share in the world in 3 points. We want to share our thoughts about the Moscow trials, about the lie of the Katyn massacre, and the non-aggression treatment with Germany. Stalin means belief in socialism. Stalin means insistence in socialism. Stalin means determination in socialism. Stalin is the name of victory against imperialism, and Stalin is defeat of imperialism. Imperialism, especially within European left, organized counter-revolutionism within the frame of anti-Stalinism. Because rejecting Stalin meant rejecting the fundamental teachings of the revolution, the fundamental teachings of Marxism-Leninism. That is, to refuse a revolution by force was to refuse war for revolution. That is, to refuse war for the people's power. History cannot be ridden with lies. The truths are revolutionary. Stalin and socialism cannot be smeared with lies, slander, and demagoguery. Individuals do not make history. History is not work of people or heroes. History is the history of class struggle. History is the work of the masses. If individuals and heroes are considered within this frame, then they will be given their true worth. In this framework, the Moscow trials will have found their true meaning. The Moscow trials is a clashing of revolution and counter-revolution. With Lenin's death, the prominent figures of that period, such as Zinoviev and Kamenev, who were repeatedly expelled from the party and forgiven after their self-criticization, but who were in state of ambition to continue their counter-revolutionary treacherous attitude, did everything in their power to make Stalin stumble and fail. These traitors, especially those who saw Lenin's death as an opening, began to think, plan, and look for opportunities where they could make Stalin and the other leaders fail. Not only did they look for opportunities, they organized and carried out treacherous actions. The Moscow trials did not result in the execution of millions of people as alleged. The majority of the death sentences imposed were annulled, and a very small portion of the sentences were imposed. It is not true that the sentences in the Soviet Union lasted a lifetime. According to the statistics of the Soviet Kurds of 1939, the number of sentences for up to 5 years was 95.5%. The sentences for 5 to 10 years was 4%. And those with more than 10 years was 0.1%. Historical facts are evident. A total of 140,000 were arrested and tried nationwide. The Moscow trials were broadcasted live to the public, the press, foreign officials, on the radio, and newspapers to the entire Soviet people. Even the slightest mistreatment, as some have claimed, could have turned into a democracy cry from the imperialist bandits, but this didn't work. Everything continued very clearly and openly. The Moscow trials and indictments have been translated into nearly 40 languages and was broadcasted live to 17 radio channels around the world. Trotsky, Zinoviev, Kamenev have betrayed the Soviet people and the Soviet Union. Stalin handled and conducted the internal struggle in accordance with Marxist-Leninist principles. It is the result of this principled and determined struggle that the party clung around the views of Stalin and the Bolsheviks and not the Trotskys and Bukharins. As a determined advocate and developer of the doctrine of the Leninist Party, Stalin argued that this communist party would only be strengthened by clearing its ranks from revisionist elements. The Zinovievs, Kamenevs, Bukharins and their supporters were punished for trying to destroy the Soviet system in collaboration with these revisionist forces, the fascism of Hitler and German imperialism. It's not because they were Stalin's opponents or had different views. Without these courts, if the traitors had not found their punishment, they would have been the blessing of fascism. Without these courts, the epic resistance against German fascism in the Second Imperialist Sharing War would not have been born. Massacres and oppression are the work of imperialism. The lie of imperialism, the Katyn massacre. One of the lies and defamation, perhaps the biggest, campaign of the imperialists, Russian collaborators, and the fascists against the Soviet Union and Stalin is the Katyn massacre. Poland is a country that borders the Soviet Union. To protect the border, the imperialists want to open a gap between Poland and the Soviets. This is exactly why the Katyn massacre lie is being told. Allegedly, 10 to 25,000 Polish officers, policemen, and civilians taken prisoner by the Soviet army in 1940 were killed by a firing squad in the Katyn forest near Smolensk due to Stalin's order. In fact, this lie spread by imperialism and its collaborators today. It was a failed campaign of lies and demagoguery by Hitler's propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. Now the imperialists and their collaborators continue this lie from where Goebbels left off. They poison young brains and try to rewrite history with lies. They compare the fascism of Hitler with the Soviets and say just as Auschwitz is a crime against humanity committed by the fascism of Hitler, the Katyn massacre is a crime against humanity committed by Stalin and the Bolsheviks. Beyond doubt, for decades, bourgeois ideologies have had no issues with the fascism of Hitler. They maintained hostility towards Stalin and socialism by saying, Hitler is bad, but Stalin is also bad. And fascism is bad, but socialism is also bad. Germany attacked the Soviet Union in 1941. Fascist Germany's propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, who realized that they could not deal with the Red Army, spread this lie to bring the Soviet Union to a difficult position and to disrupt the anti-fascist coalition and to provoke the Polish against the Soviets. The victory of Stalingrad was a turning point of the war. At exactly this point is where the Goebbels team started their campaign. In the posters that Goebbels prepared, it said, if the Soviets win, everywhere will be cutting. In September 1943, after Smolensk was cleared of the fascists, the Soviet government established 2 commissions to investigate the cutting case. And in January 1944, the commission called many people to the scene of the incident to explain its findings. These people included foreign journalists and the daughter of the US ambassador. It was shown that those who were shot here were killed by Nazis. For example, the weapon used was a German pistol, the German pistol Walter. And when the graves were opened, it was seen that those who were massacred were buried with their clothes, and the documents IDs with the dates of 1941 were found in their pockets. This situation shows that these prisoners of war were alive until the Nazi occupation. It was documented that Germany's fascism was responsible for the Katyn massacre, and this was announced to the world. But as American imperialism escalated its attacks on Stalin and socialism after the 1950s, this lie was reborn and brought back to agenda. Despite all the attacks, historical investigations document the fact that the Soviet Union did not carry out this massacre. All the efforts of imperialism and their collaborators are in vain. Why did Stalin have to sign a non-aggression treaty with the fascist Germany? During the 1930s, all imperialist states, particularly the British and French imperialists, rejected the Soviet Union's offer of a collective security treaty in Europe and entered a policy of appeasing Hitler. When Hitler annexed Europe, invaded Czechoslovakia, they did not make a sound. The Soviet Union, whose efforts were unsuccessful, had to make a non-aggression agreement with Germany. The non-aggression agreement gained the Soviets a period of around 1 year. By delaying the attack, it prolongs the preparation process, and this agreement was made for this. The bourgeois intellectuals and the press wrote that this shocked France and Britain. But the same France and Britain did not fire a single bullet against German fascism for 7 months when Germany invaded Poland in September 1939. The purpose of the attack on Stalin through this non-aggression agreement is primarily to equalize Hitler and Stalin. It's to show the people that they're both the same dictator, that they're both the same murderer. Another lie is the secret additional protocol of the treaty. Allegedly, this protocol was for Germany and the Soviet Union to divide Poland, leaving Bessarabia to the Soviet Union. The original of such a document has never been shown. Announced for the first time in 1946 article in a US newspaper, it said that such a protocol was found in microfilm supposedly shot in Berlin. And at the time, no one took this claim seriously. However, in the 1980s, when the enemy of the people, Mikhail Gorbachev, came to power, this secret protocol began to be discussed again in Europe. The purpose of all these slanders is to destroy Stalin's prestige. Imperialist tyrants still shake every time they hear Stalin's name. Stalin has always been the fearful dream of the imperialists. Imperialism has a massive dark history, which is enough for us not to believe in the lies of imperialism. No imperialist lie can conceal their true face. So we will continue to fight against anti-Stalinism wherever we are. The struggle against anti-Stalinism is a part of our struggle for revolution. And the most important pillar of the revolutionary struggle is the ideological struggle. Rejecting Stalin is rejecting Marxism-Leninism. To be Stalinist today is to fight against imperialism, fascism, for socialism. Stalin is the leader of the peoples of this world, one of our leaders. It is our promise to Stalin, we will shake this world once again from Turkey. People's Front, thank you.